my name is Martha Whiting. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Wynter. And I'm really delighted today to welcome our Wynter Workshop guest today, Connor Lewis, who is the founder of Studio Lewis. Now, Connor has spent 10 years helping B2B SaaS companies transform their existing marketing strategies by integrating video as a medium in their current strategy and not selling them the latest video trend. Now, video is something that I'm sure we're all tempted to do, or perhaps we're already doing it. And it's everywhere, and we do consume it all the time. But if you want to get creating instead of just consuming all the time, it can be difficult to know what approach works best and what channels to go for. But luckily, Connor has made 415 video ads for B2B companies and counting. So it's safe to say he really does know what works. So in this workshop, he's going to show you how you can use video as a medium, not a strategy, and how to get the best results. So we will be having a Q&A at the end of our session today. So please do keep your questions coming in throughout. You can see there's a chat box. There's also a Q&A box. Feel free to put those in at any time. So I'll be jumping back on your screen at the end to get those answered for you. But in the meantime, join me in welcoming Connor for this week's Wynter Workshop. Thank you.
How lovely. Thank you so much, Martha. Okay. Well, folks, do I have a presentation for you today? I'm basically going to go through 30 minutes of how to make really good B2B videos, and then I'm going to switch it over to questions because I feel like that's the most valuable time of any kind of workshop, is like getting specific into your business. And so we'll get to that as fast as I can. But the main problem statement for me to solve today is that everyone feels like they need to do video, but there's a million options. So where do you even start? It's like everyone is pitching you on the latest trend, like do founder social, do video ads, do, YouTube. And it's like, it pulls you away from what's important and what you've already put, the marketing team onto, like the strategy that you're already on. So let's make some really good B2B videos without switching strategies, and I'll teach you how today. So who is this dude? My name is Connor. I've only worked in B2B video my entire career, essentially. I started as a video intern at a software company called The Predictive Index. It was Series A at the time, about 70 employees. Grew that role into the head of video, and we had a team of 3, which was awesome. And that was like the first 4 years of my career. And then I hopped off, started Studio Lewis, and have been helping clients ever since. Some random social proof is that one documentary I made for a B2B company generated 4 million. I know that my title says 400, and it's now 417 video ads made. But honestly, I've made over 1,200 B2B videos. Again, this is like literally the only kinds of videos that I've made. Besides like college, made some short films. So this is my world. This is the world I live in. And I have a lot of fun with it. So I want to teach you how to have some fun with it. The obvious thing in the room is that video is becoming unignorable. I didn't even put TikTok and Meta on here because I feel like it's not worth it. I think you already know that those channels are really prioritizing video, but really LinkedIn lately has been banging that drum. There were the weird July, October spikes of impressions that we couldn't tell if were real or fake. Really, in my eyes, it was just LinkedIn testing and getting a whole bunch of data on what videos work where. And now they're boosting the hell out of influencer-led posts. That they're literally just hosting events that they're telling their users that they want to double down on video on. And the CEO and the LinkedIn marketing team both want to crack video because they want to unlock that as a marketing channel. YouTube is a huge B2B channel. I think it's often ignored, but it's hard to crack, understandably. It's the #2 search engine in the world. 2.5 billion logged in users every month. That is an insane number. And shorts have been growing. So this number was 30 billion daily views on shorts. And now in 2024, we logged 50 billion daily views on shorts. So their short form is growing quite a bit. And Sundar, of course, is over-investing in YouTube right now. All right, let's get into the meat of this. So I want to dispel a belief right off the bat. And this was maybe a red herring because we brought people in under the notion that we're going to upgrade your video strategy. But I actually hate the term video strategy. I don't think there's such a thing. I don't think it's a useful phrase to think about. There's no such thing as a video strategy. We're just going to get that out of our heads because video is a medium. It's like saying that you have a writing strategy, which maybe you have like a production strategy for writing, but think of video more as a medium. It's a part of the content machine that you're already running. And so this whole presentation is going to be about breaking down different videos for different go-to-market strategies, because this is actually the job that we have to do whenever we're making a B2B video. We have to come up with a distribution strategy, a messaging strategy, and a production strategy. That's it. Where do they go? What do they say? And how are they made? when you think about it that simply, it's a lot less overwhelming than making a video, which is like a billion things at once. So, where do they go? Your goal here is eyeballs. And honestly, I would double down on channels that you're already using and figure out what works best there. Messaging strategy, what do they say? Your goal to here is clarity. So how can you be as clear as possible in whatever you're teaching, even if it's about your product or thought leadership? And then production is the one that often gets people stuck because they can do these two, but production's a bit of a black box. So I'm going to unpack it a little bit in today's presentation. And the goal here is efficiency, because if you can't systematize your video creation, then it's going to fall flat because your first videos are going to suck. They always do. Mine did. And so you got to get it to a point where you can just keep doing volume until they do get good, because they will get very good and you'll figure out what works if you can do it sustainably. So literally any go-to-market strategy can use video. You've probably heard of Ahrefs YouTube channel. They're doing really well in SEO. HubSpot runs amazing video ad campaigns. Wistia has a huge customer story library for their sales team. This is a company called Go Security that staples videos onto their events. The CEO of Warmly does founder-led organic social and generates a ton of leads that way. And Canva had a huge brand campaign. So you can do video on any channel, even if your main strategy is SEO. YouTube is there for that. So let's get into it. The first example I'm going to show you is video for content and SEO. So this is basically on the right here. Our goal is to get on the top page of YouTube the top page of Google, and also to rank on YouTube. And so let's solve each of these problems that we outlined in the beginning: production, messaging, and distribution, right? So production is typically like a one-day studio production. Not always, but in B2B, that's common. And you're batching scripts. So your goal is to get a bunch of scripts into production days so that you can batch a bunch of content together. You don't need a huge crew for this. You can usually get away with like 1 or 2 camera people who's also monitoring sound. And the goal, the real meat of the work is in editing. It's going to be a lot of editing. It's going to be motion graphics. How can you keep people glued to the screen? And so when you're solving the problem of production, you're actually thinking about what's the editing, pipeline. Messaging, how-tos, lists, interviews, success stories all work really well, but honestly, just prioritize the promise on the first 30 seconds, which I'll get to in a second. But the first 30 seconds and the title and thumbnail are everything when it comes to SEO video. This is kind of where it lands on the distribution map. So folks who are problem aware, folks who are visiting the website, onboarding, this is kind of the space that it lives in. That's how I think about it, at least. So if you do want to get started in SEO video, here are the next steps. You want to create 10 thumbnails, 10 titles, and 10 30-second intros. This is the meat of the work. That'll put you on the right path. I like to do keyword research with a tool called TubeBuddy. So I actually go on YouTube and manually search things that I think my ICP would search for when I was in-house. Like this was how to build an employee engagement program when I worked at an HR tech company. And you can see how many people search it and what the competition is. And that's a good gauge of like how well you'd be able to rank for that title. And it'll give you some related searches too to check out. But your goal at the beginning is just figure out what the promise is of the videos, and then you can create the content from there. 1 of 10 is a really good website too that I would recommend checking out. Whole rabbit hole though, I won't go there. Okay, let's talk about ads. So if your go-to-market strategy is mainly in ads, maybe it's in Google search ads, maybe it's in LinkedIn ads, video can help upgrade those and take messages that you already know are working and make them even better. So production for this typically looks like a 1 or 2 day production. I'm of the belief that if you're making 1 ad in 1 day, you're being a little bit inefficient. And so I like to bulk film my ads in 1 location using multiple different angles of that location. Crew size can vary. Obviously, you can get ridiculously high production with this. You can also shoot with a phone. I know Superside, for instance, was a huge B2B company that made a lot of really good stuff with just their phone, a few different angles, some mics, and some actors. So you can have a lot of fun with this, or you can go pretty ridiculous with it. Your post is going to be a lot lighter because you're hopefully getting a lot of the story in person, so you don't have to edit so much. That said, editing is still ridiculously important. Like you need to have it fast paced. You need to incorporate your product as best as you can. There's some examples from Scribe and Canva up here that I could share. But yeah, your messaging here is going to be very channel dependent. So ads work when they blend in with the feed, because ultimately what you're doing is interrupting someone's experience. So if you hit someone with an ad on Meta, for instance, it damn well better feel like it belongs on Meta. So honestly, I've found that lower production stuff works well on Meta. Influencer stuff works well on Meta. But if you're on YouTube, the opposite is true. Higher production stuff works better. It needs to feel like it's part of the system that you're interrupting, essentially. And then if you've ever followed my content, I really believe in a pain feature benefit story. Hit people with pain in the beginning and say your brand early and often, and show the promised land at the end. Sometimes people lead with benefits, and I think that's a huge mistake when it comes to ads. Here it is on the distribution map. You're bringing people into the funnel, right? No rocket science here. So if you do want to create video ads, here's your next step. Create 6 ad script outlines. So each with a different pain point. Your goal here is to test. So at the beginning, you won't really know which video ads are going to land. And so you want to get a good range of pain points to hook people in, because the hook is the most important part. Again, if you followed my content, I really love the pain feature benefit as a start. You can get fancier with these kind of structures, but this way you can chart out what you're going to fit into that 15 seconds. And here's an example of like, I do sticky notes whenever I try to do ads. So if the problem statement is it feels like I'm betting whenever I'm choosing a Facebook audience, well, we have this feature. How can we create a story out of those two? And just like creating quotes. So that's video ads. All right, let's say you're a sales-led organization. Maybe you don't have like a go-to-market strategy that relies on ads or SEO. You're all outbound. Okay, cool. The number one thing I hear from literally every salesperson is like, can we get more case studies? And that's because case studies work really well in the sales process. They don't work well in the beginning of the funnel because no one's going to watch your case study if they don't care about you. But if they're thinking about your solution and even shopping it around and trying to champion it, that's when case studies make a huge difference, because that's how they sell the idea internally. Oh, they're doing it. Why can't we do it? So a case study strategy might be for you if you're sales led. You can go in person. You don't have to. You can still do these productions virtually. I found that the in-person ones make you look, elevated as a brand, but the story is what matters most. So you can get good customer stories virtually. Don't feel embarrassed by a virtual customer story. They're just as good, to be honest. If you do go in person, you need a crew of about 3 or 4, I would say. And the bulk of the work is in editing, again, because you're going to have the 60-minute, interview transcript, and you're going to want to turn that into at least 5 videos. Like you should easily be able to get 5 good 30-second quotes that you can turn into ads, and you should be able to make like a 2.5 minutes full customer story that can live on the top of the blog post. So that's your goal, and that's kind of what the work you're looking at is. Scriptwriter is most important for this. Like if you're prioritizing talent, scriptwriter over everything. Because it's hard to take a transcript and weave it into a story, even with AI. So yeah, scriptwriter is the most important there. Messaging should be all around how our customer achieved dream outcome without biggest pain/objection using your product, and always tie features to benefits. I'm just a huge advocate of that. Don't say that they got 20% revenue increase without showing how your product helped them get there. It's not going to be believable. I firmly believe that. So this is where it looks like it lives on the distribution map. And if you're thinking about this as a strategy, here's your next step. You can see a pattern in this presentation now. So first, you're going to want to create a map of target stories. So this is something I did with a client of mine where they have a vertical product. So they're only targeting accountants. So they end up splitting their market like this. You might split your market differently. But really, you want to prioritize the largest customer percentage that you have first. So if you're someone who sells to financial folks and manufacturing folks, for instance, which one takes priority? Which one are your sales team having more conversations with? Map that out. And then create a story for each vertical if you're horizontal, or for each section if you're vertical. Because really what matters most in customer stories is this company that I'm watching like me? If it's not like me, then I don't care. So you need to create a library of as many different industries and verticals as you can get. That's the goal here, at least. How to do this? The hardest part about these is actually sourcing the stories. So befriend a CSM, dig through Gong recordings, use an app like Laudable to pull from your G2 reviews, and I think it also pulls from your Gong recordings and finds little nuggets that you can go in and investigate and actually reach out and say, hey, we noticed you said this thing. Would you be comfortable saying it on camera? When you do outreach, give them a clear ask. I think the number one problem I see when people are asking for a customer story is like, what do you actually want me to do as someone who's giving you this story? If it's, I'm going to send a film crew to your site and we're going to film for half of a day and I just need you in a 45-minute interview, that's a lot more helpful than like, I need you to speak on camera. Gives them an idea of like what they're buckling up for. And most of the time when you give them a clear ask and they know what to expect, they can give you a clearer answer as opposed to giving you the runaround. Quid pro quos work well, discounts, customer advisory boards. When I was in-house, we used to invite people to customer advisory boards and they could give advice on the direction of the product, which was like a win-win for us. And also gas them up, make them feel good, make them feel special if you're going to get them on camera. Cool. All right, video for events. If you're doing an events-based strategy, video can make the event basically last longer, right? So it's not just this one and done kind of investment. You can actually get a bunch of video assets out of it that you can trickle throughout social, maybe throughout your website. The obvious event video is if you are hosting an event, record the sessions. I won't go into that because I feel like it's a little too on the nose. But honestly, I've seen event videos work really well that have a host and a 1 or 2 man crew. So basically like keeping it lightweight, mobile, someone on the microphone. I think I have an image in the next slide. Yeah, something like this, where your goal is to just show off the human side of the brand, meet people in the industry, show off that you're a very extroverted brand and you want to get to know the people in your industry. This is very personality driven content, really fun. Also works well if it's journalistic, right? If you're going to a conference and it's all about manufacturing, what's on everyone's mind? How are they thinking about it? What are some insights that you can pull from everyone to create interesting videos that no one else could create because you're on the ground? That's your unique advantage, is like you're actually speaking to people in person in these moments. So really cool opportunity. I love video for events. I have it, a lot of them go onto social in my experience. Like I've seen event libraries born up in the website section of the distribution funnel. And sometimes that works, but most of the time it's to create FOMO on social media, and sometimes to even run ads behind if something's doing really well, like a thought leadership ad on LinkedIn, killer. So that's kind of your strategy going into events. If you want to add video to your event strategy, this is what I would think the first steps are. Find a host and find a format. So who's personable and fun and who has time is kind of like my 2 criteria, because that executives are going to be really busy at events, schmoozing and whining and dining, and also just like meeting with important vendors and clients. So who can actually pick up the mic and have a good time with it? And then find a format. So as you're doom scrolling through, Instagram, what have you at night, bookmark stuff that catches your attention and steal it. Like, honestly, I think in B2B, there's a huge opportunity to reuse B2C formats, or even just like entertainment-based formats, and bring them over to the B2B world. I'm not going to say B2B needs to be more fun, because I think that phrase is overused, but maybe it needs to be more fun. Okay. Organic social, cool. Maybe you are accomplishing a founder-led organic social strategy, and your main goal is to post on social. This is my go-to-market strategy for reference. This is like what I do. I just post on social media, and your goal here is to be the Chris Walker of the world. No, I'm kidding. That's tough. Your goal here is to create a half-day or full-day production for whoever your speaker is. Obviously, founder is like the dream scenario, but you can't always get the time and attention of your founder. So whoever you choose your internal SME to be, I think, for instance, with Apollo, it was their VP of sales, ? Don't quote me on that. But they would always batch 4 to 5 scripts. And this is what I do too. I write 4 to 5 scripts and then block out a whole day or a half day to just get them done. I personally like to shoot around different places in Boston and then land in a studio for the educational portion, so that the hook is a little more visually interesting. But you don't need to. If your insights are good, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And for this one, the crew can vary. There's lots of prep needed. I would say like the majority of the work in this kind of production isn't in the edit. It's actually in the prep for the video itself. because at the end of the day, if you're not saying something valuable, if you're not saying something with a strong point of view, then it's going to blend in with the rest of the feed and you're going to have wasted your time. So prep, make sure those scripts are good, and find a short form editor who can just make it into magic. And I have some recommendations if you need them. Your messaging here should be unique points of view, how I reaction videos. Like I almost want to bring up, yeah. So Nothing is a B2C company. I'm sorry, but they do a really good series where he just reacts to reviews of his own phone. And I would love to see this in B2B, for instance. So Nothing has a really good founder-led organic social strategy. Obviously, Refine Labs is one of the biggest ones in B2B. But you're really like the unique point of view is everything. Like, who is your founder? What do they care? Should I root for them? These are the questions going on in the minds of your audience. And if it's entertaining and the answer to these things are yes, then it's gonna be a home run. Here it is in the funnel. Obviously, we're trying to pull people in from social and drive curiosity about the website. Again, not super rocket sciencey there. Maybe the non-obvious thing here is that you can split between tofu content and mofu content when it comes to organic social. So for instance, I have videos that just talk about video ads and the intricacies of getting them done, and it's super granular. And then I have stuff that's like memes and ad breakdowns that are super high level, and like anyone can kind of dip into it. So think about dividing your scripts in like that, like someone who's more solution aware and someone who's never heard of you before and is more broad appeal. Okay. If this is interesting to you, the next step would be to write 6 hooks. And then after, it's very similar to the organics, like SEO video play. When you write those 6 hooks, you'll have created promises that you have to fulfill. You have to write those scripts. And if you have a busy founder, like I know most marketing teams have, actually sit down with them and interview them around those 6 topic areas, I would say for about an hour. Very similar to blog writing, really. But you're just trying to get their point of view so that you can create the scripts for them and make it super easy for them to just sit down and go through the scripts, either with a teleprompter or not, depending on how comfortable they are on camera. I love Fathom as an AI note taker, so I just wanted to put it in there. And then I honestly use Claude for a lot of organic script writing, both for myself and for others. I found Claude to be a lot more creative when it comes to writing. I always think that Claude is my CMO and ChatGPT is my COO. So I could geek out about AI, but that's not what this presentation is about. The point is you can use AI to help you scrape through the interview with your founder and get some really easy V1s that obviously you need to punch up, but it gets past the blank page syndrome. There's me. Okay, cool. We're almost at the end here. So the last talk about is, well, the second to last thing is if you're a PLG company, customer education might be underrated, to be honest. Like when I was in-house, we went from a sales-led strategy to a product-led strategy in like 2021, 2022. And the biggest unlock for revenue from a video standpoint was customer education. It was literally just getting the free people to understand the product, get value from it, and then upgrade. And all of that happened, by the way, like bottom of funnel. It's all in the onboarding and upgrade phase, and a little bit on the website. Like we had an explainer on the website, which I loop into education. So, excuse me. This is the number one unlock for any PLG company in my mind. If they already have users coming in the door, if you already have impressions, if you already have free users, but they're just not upgrading, which is a huge common problem for PLG companies, this is the move. You're going to want to set up a one-day production. I always think that you can get a whole course done in a day and then 4 use case shorts. And what I mean here is I'll even bring it up on Apollo. Oh, hold on. It looks like share this tab instead. There we go. So for instance, Apollo does it like they'll have master classes with sometimes influencers, sometimes people in-house. And these are long form, like 50-minute courses, right? But they also just have like use cases down here, how to manage deals, how to use AI power-ups and accelerate prospecting. Like these are outcomes that they tie their product to. So if you want to get this done, watch this quick video and we'll teach you how to do it in like 3 minutes using Apollo. Your goal is just to get people, like teach them how to accomplish a goal. People use software to accomplish a process, like, and so if they're getting stuck and they're not able to do the process, just teach them how to do it. teach them how to use their product, get those users in more often is the goal here. And so if you're doing it in person, if you're fancy like Apollo, hold on, I haven't cut back to my thing. There we go. If you're doing it in person, if you're fancy like Apollo, a crew of 4 might be overkill. You could probably do like a crew of 3. But you're going to want to batch record just like any other talking head video, just like the founder videos. And you're mainly going to be talking about an editor and a motion designer in post. You don't need anything fancier. Cool. If customer education is your goal, here's the high impact use cases you should map out. So where do users get stuck? Where's the fastest speed to value? And then help them hit a paywall, as I like to always say. The first one, where do users get stuck? You can use a tool like LogRocket to see where people are getting frustrated and just kind of like not able to get the outcome that they need. And you can actually just like figure out from a heat map perspective, where you should spend the most time educating. I would say that's like a reduce the pain kind of situation. If you want to help them increase speed to value, what's the fastest way that people can get wins from your platform? Your product marketers probably already know this. Just teach them to get that fast win, to get that magic moment, and to feel good about using your software. And then help them hit a paywall. So give them tips on how to use your product to, the maximum. And they might hit a paywall along the way. That's how you get people to upgrade. So for instance, when I was in-house at the Predictive Index, our value metric was sending out assessments. It was an assessment software company. It was all about helping people understand who they're hiring from a personality standpoint. And so we wanted people to send out as many assessments as they could, because once they sent out a certain amount, they would hit a paywall. That's the greedy kind of capitalist reason, but also because that's how they would get value. That's how they would learn what the product does and see the use case in a bunch of different areas. And so we made a ton of videos about how to send assessments, when to send assessments, what time to send assessments, how to present it to them. It was a lot, but it really helped grease the wheels in the PLG system. So, and there's this other app I love that I feel like every marketer should just have in their tool belt, so you don't always have to hire a motion designer. Screen Studio is beautiful, and it's not even a SaaS, right? You can pay once and it's done, and it just helps you record. It's like Fancy Loom, it does the zooms and everything for you. So if you like Fancy Loom and you make product videos, highly recommend. Cool. All right. One thing I want to talk about today, but I'll just briefly mention, is brand anthems. If you're a huge company and you're going through a rebrand, video helps with that. Mixed results on this Jaguar campaign, but regardless, talk to me about this in 5 years. I'll have better things to say about it. I'm just starting out in these. I'm just learning about this. It's usually pretty expensive too. And because it's usually tied into a huge integrated campaign, like these never live on their own. You're usually getting stills and pulling stuff into the websites. Big crew, big creative. But if branding is a huge strategy for you, I just wanted to point out the video obviously can help with that. Cool. Let's wrap up with key takeaways. So we talked about the fact that video is not a strategy. I want you to stop feeling overwhelmed whenever you see something on social and it's like, if you're not doing your video strategy this way, then you're done for. That's canceled. Video is not a strategy, it's a medium. So here's the actual things that need to get done to make good videos. You need a distribution plan. So what channels are you in? What kind of content are you already writing? That's where I would start. You need a messaging plan. So I always like to say prioritize testing. Video is a really good way to get a pulse on what actually works from a marketing standpoint. So what pain, features, benefits are you targeting? And how can you set this up in a way that you can test? And then the last thing is production. So make it consistent, make the process fun. If you're not having fun, you're not going to do it. And if you're not doing it in a way that's set up for success, then you're going to drag your feet and hate it every time you have to make a video. So how can you build a process that you actually love? And how are you ensuring that quality? Because when you love what you do, and you love making videos, that shows up in the content. Video is so personality driven. And so just make the process consistent and something that you love. That's all I would say. Yeah, there you go. Make it sustainable, make it smart, make it fun. I don't even remember writing that. But anyway, this is me having a good time on set a few times. I would love to turn it over for questions and invite Martha back. Because yeah, I'd love to hear about what you all are struggling with videos. This is the time to pick my brain and talk specifics. And I want to be as helpful as I can.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much, Connor. It was such a good session. I know we've got quite a few questions coming in already. So everyone, yeah, feel free to pop those in the comments now. I'd love to kick off, actually. I'm really curious because obviously you see so much content. You must be consuming all the time,
Sure, yeah.
whether that's work or outside of work. Have you seen any hooks recently that's actually made you stop and think that was a really good idea? Like, where do you get your inspiration from, and what hooks actually do make you?
What hooks? What hooks?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hooks are their own universe. Like you can have a whole bunch of different hooks. I focus on hooks as pain because I think that's what
Okay.
gets people's attention if they've never heard of you.
Yeah.
Some unique out of the box hooks that have really caught me is like big ones on LinkedIn are like stories of redemption. So the hook is usually something like I was at rock bottom, and then the post goes into how they got out of rock bottom. Those always, you pair that with a selfie and you got yourself a banger, or a video in this case. How I hooks also work really well for me in videos is what I felt as a B2B service company. I think there's a lot of skepticism out there around how-tos. So if you're like telling them how to do something, it's like I could have just looked that up on ChatGPT. But if you're like, this is how I did something, we're all nosy creatures, so we just want to see how you did something, and that hook always works. So
okay, perfect. And I'm really curious to know as well, like, what's your take on brand? How should we be putting our brands across in these videos? Obviously, people don't tend to watch for an incredibly long amount of time, especially if it's an ad. How many seconds have we got? Is it about 3 seconds or even less before we start scrolling? So yeah, what's your take on
YouTube did a study on this that ads would basically fail if you didn't say your brand in the first 5 seconds. And I saw that Pep did a post the other day where he's like, say it in the first second, because and I actually believe in that. That's true. Say it early and say it often when it comes to videos. More so with ads, I think it's more important to say your brand with ads because at the end of the day, most people are going to skip by you. And so if you can just get your brand in there, then at least you can hook the name in their mind. And so when they see it again and see it again and see it again, it'll reinforce. Because part of the game you're playing with ads is just like repetition, because you're interrupting people. But honestly, for like customer education, for instance, like this kind of stuff, you don't need to reference your brand except to show off when you're showing off a feature, because people are already there and they're already investing. They're already at the bottom of the funnel, so they're already pretty interested, and you don't gotta knock them over the head with it as much.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And let's head over to some of these questions. We've got a few coming through. We've got one from Eric, which was earlier when we were talking about videos for events. In terms of physical equipment, what would you recommend when you're doing events?
Ooh.
And also for organic videos at home. I know there's a huge spread of different things we can use, but yeah, what would be your take on best physical equipment to go for events and then also for at-home organic content?
Oh my God, Eric, I have a whole spreadsheet for you. So you should send it over. I honestly think you don't need to over-index here. One of the most flexible tools I've seen come out in the past year is called the spreadsheet plus affiliate link. No, but I should put affiliate links in there.
You should.
The most flexible tool I've seen come out in the last year is called the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I'll even bring it up. This little tool is the freaking, if you're talking about events especially, I think this is this thing for you personally. It's just the cutest little thing. First of all, it's so low profile, so you can just slip it into your bag, which is actually really helpful for getting stuff done. But most importantly, it shoots, like, this camera is better than most DSLRs. It's got 4K. It comes with a mic automatically attached to it, so you don't have to worry about pairing the right mic. I'm not sponsored by them. I just firmly believe that this is the best thing ever. Yeah, like, this is how low profile it is. And then you just start it up by twisting it. I love this thing, man. This is what I use at every event. If you are looking to kind of up the quality, because this won't be like will it work okay in a noisy conference? Yeah, it'll work okay in a noisy conference. They have the mic on board probably won't, but they have an upgrade where you can just buy a lavalier that automatically attaches to that, and so that will work well at a noisy event because someone's speaking really closely to it. Past that, if you're looking to like get DSLR quality, just get like a Sony point and shoot to start out. I could go deeper into that, but that's a little more specialized, but
Okay, perfect. That's a really, really helpful advice. And how about in terms of lighting as well? Do you have any advice on just like quick lighting? What's your take on that? And also microphones too.
Oh yeah, I can do all that. So lighting, If you're lighting people, the rule of thumb is big and soft. So like, for instance, I'll even like show you. This is my light setup right now. This is just a big softbox. And of course, if you're shooting in events, for instance, you can't always bring the biggest thing. But as big of a light source as you can creates these like really soft silhouettes on people's faces. It just makes them look very nice. Versus the enemy that I create when it comes to lighting is those like harsh panel lights. They're like squares. They're really small. They seem
It's like
nice because they're portable, but goodness, they make people look really pale and like give those raccoon eyes. I just hate them. I think they don't look good. But you know, you have to make compromises sometimes when you're going to cramped spaces. So big and light. And then the microphone situation, there's kind of two I guess camps when it comes to microphone. There's the lavalier, which I actually got one right here. So this is the classic like Gen Z holding the lav, you know, you can clip it here as well. This is really good for drowning out the noise of a conference, for instance, because it's very short range, but it is omnidirectional. So like if you're near other people, it'll catch them too. And then you have what's called a shotgun mic, which I don't really have around me right now, but essentially it's like a flashlight in mic form where it will record wherever you're pointing at, and not much else. And that's better for catching if you do want that ambiance. Sometimes when you're shooting in events, by the way, you want to include that ambiance as well as speaker clarity because that ambiance creates that FOMO. So as Rode, the Rode Mic Mini Pro, look that up. And then as far as I really like Rode's lav mics. They're cheap and they're easy to use, which is like the two most important things for me, and they're good quality. So Rode, I think they're called Rode Mini something. I'll look it up.
Okay, perfect.
This is why I need my spreadsheet.
And the affiliate links.
Rode Wireless Go 2. That's what it's called.
There we go.
Rode Wireless Go 2.
Okay, wonderful. Let's jump on over to Laurel's question here. I don't know if you can see this one in the questions here, Laurel. Connor, sorry.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Laurel's saying that she believes in video is a big portion of their overall marketing strategy, but it can be challenging sometimes to prove ROI and get budget for video to cover the full funnel. So what are your suggestions or playbook on how to manage that? How do you deal with that?
I'd be so curious, Laurel, which channels you're looking at of the ones that I covered today, or maybe one that I didn't cover. Because then you can just kind of back into ROI from those things. Like for instance, video ad ROI, very easy to prove because it's all about conversion. It's like how can we get CAC down essentially. SEO videos, a lot harder to prove because it's a much longer term strategy. You have to be invested in it. If you're building a business case for it internally, I would collect companies who have done it well in the past and show how long it's taken for them to get there, and show public posts from their heads of video or their heads of content about what the ROI has been for them. So that's step one. And then step two is like I would show a plan and show expected payback period because marketers are always thinking about payback period. So in the case of SEO, for instance, which is again probably the hardest one to prove, I would chart out like your hypotheses and what you think will happen when it comes to putting those videos on to blog posts in order to increase their SEO ranking. And oh yeah, I see that that's part of my curiosity. Thinking about last experience where I was going in with no existing videos, it almost sounds like you should start with channels that prove ROI and then go out from there. Yeah, it's complicated because it depends on your strategy. Like the reason I chose video ads, for instance, for my business is because it's the fastest to ROI because you can just spend a ton of money and learn what messages work and learn what videos work a lot faster. If you're doing an SEO strategy, of course, you kind of have to wait for folks to search you up and for it to catch traction. And B2B videos typically have a harder time on YouTube than like straight entertainment videos. Not to say they don't work, of course, for companies like Ahrefs and owner.com, which by the way, I should point this out. If you're looking to make a case internally for videos, one of the things I did with this slide deck that I'm sure Martha will share out is I put examples at the top. So for instance, with SEO, like show them
14 years ago, I started my career.
Oh my gosh, it's autoplayed. Show them like Ahrefs, subscriber count, how long it took them to get there, what their general strategy is, like break it down for them. If it's not a similar industry, that's okay. You can show how it would relate to your industry. But the point is like, have like a starting point, have something that they can look at and see other people be successful in, because they just need to see the vision most of the time.
Okay, brilliant. This is really good advice. Okay, should we crack on to the next question? We've got one from Alfonso. I don't know if you can see it. It's in the Q&A section here. So Alfonso says, hi, when working on SEO-oriented videos, specifically on YouTube, what are the things you should not miss? We've been taking a look at cards, chapters, description links, tags. What would you say are the best basic ones and how to leverage
them? Where was that? I'm working on, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cards, chapters, what would you say the basic ones? Interesting. So what are the things you should not miss? We've been taking a look at cards, chapters. What do you mean when you say you've been taking a look at cards, chapters, and description links? Have you like been thinking about what to make those essentially? Like you're trying to figure out your promises? Is that how I should understand it? What would you say the basic ones and how to leverage them? Okay, I'm going to answer this question how I think it is, but Alfonso, if you're in chat, maybe you can give me some clarity there. Basically, here's what I do whenever I'm charting out YouTube content for a brand. I'll just share this Chrome tab. So I use these two tools, right? So TubeBuddy is something that you can literally just search in the YouTube search bar and get an idea of search volume and competition. If it's not above a 60, you should not go for it, in my strong opinion. As someone who's made a lot of YouTube videos for B2B, it's just hard out there already. And so you want that advantage at the start by having a good weighted score on your keyword score. So that's the start. If you want help on creating the thumbnails and the title, which is essentially the promise of the video, there's this really cool tool I'll share called, this is just the 1 in 10. You're looking inside the app now. And all it does is it charts out. So this is from my client Lilt. They're like a B2B localization company. And all I'm doing is finding similar B2B YouTube channels and finding out like which promises stood out. So this got 7.5 times the clicks of their normal, of the channel average views. Why did that happen? I would probably click in and find out. I know because it's Ryan Serhant. When I look at that, I know he's got a Netflix documentary, and so that's probably why that's doing well. This is an update, so that's probably why that's doing well. How Cash App stocks work. That's interesting. So that's a more general interest. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, it seems like people really wanted to know about that. 3.6 times their normal views. It seems like they did well there. There's probably something there that we could copy. And then they also have title generators and thumbnail generators to get you started. I never think they're perfect, but it's a good head start. But this is kind of how I do my research, is I switch between those two tools. So I'm going into 1 in 10 or 1 of 10 and trying to like find this. The site that's being used right now, this is oneof10.com. Oneof10.com. My only gripe about it is it feels kind of expensive for what it's offering. It's like $40 to $80 for a subscription per month. But the insights it offers are really valuable, so here I am. And yeah, so use a mix of TubeBuddy, which is like a browser extension, and it's free, and 1 of 10 if you're really looking to and like go all in on this. Maybe just pay for 1 month and test out the tool.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and I've got another question for you here, actually.
Bring
So
it
I'm
on.
really curious to know, because obviously, I don't know, most people have probably seen, but Google DeepMind launched VO3 yesterday. I think it was like 21 hours ago now or something. What is your take on AI generated videos? How are we feeling about it? And yeah, how do you think that's going to play out in terms of B2B video and yeah, as a medium in itself?
Yeah, I can tell you how it's playing out now and how I might see it. So VO3 was pretty freaking good. I barely had a chance to look at it this morning because I think it came out like last night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And adding sound to things is going to change a lot, because one of the biggest problems was that you could really only use video for B-roll. Now you can use it potentially for an end product. We'll see. But most importantly for previs, which is basically just a term that means like visualizing what a video will be before you make it. And I'm already starting to look at ways to use that in my ad process. Basically bring it in and create the video like as a storyboard, basically, before we actually go and shoot it, so that you can get executive buy-in and everything. Do I think it's good enough to go straight to publish? Ask a blog writer if they think Claude is good enough to go straight to publish there too. It's still going to take some zhuzhing, obviously, I think we'll get there though. I'm gonna be honest. I think like in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll probably get there. And it'll be really, really interesting to see what consumer tastes will change when that happens. Like if everyone can make a killer video by typing into AI, like a Hollywood looking video ad, for instance, will people expect more from you as a brand, or something different, or something innately human? Because there does seem to be a large consumer rejection of AI created stuff. As soon as people get a whiff of the fact that it's AI, uh, their brain turns off, and they you lose a lot of brand equity. I've seen things like AI slop in the comments, or like, why are you copying famous artists and creators? So just like be careful with that. Obviously, if you're going to publish AI content, but I do think it'll get there. I don't know where we'll be consumer taste wise in 3 to 5 years, but yeah. I'll also share where we're using it in the process right now. So AI is used in the editing process. So identifying good clips, it's pretty good for that. There are a few different programs. It's also used for taking songs and making them whatever length you need to be and automatically remixing them. It's good for scratch voiceovers. Voiceovers, I think it's going to accomplish before full video. I think in the next 1 to 2 years, we'll have like really convincing AI voiceovers. Right now, they sound a little lifeless, but good for the first draft, as I always say. And then, yeah, where else do I use it? It's mostly it. Clip identification, some script writing. If I'm like, if I've just interviewed a customer, for instance, and I want to turn it into a customer testimonial, I have a custom GBT that helps me find the best quotes, and then I can build a script from that quote. Yeah. Was that helpful? I'm so curious to hear how Geo changes the game. I'm going to be using it in my storyboarding process. I know that much.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, perfect. So we've got some other questions coming in. We've got another one from Laurel here as well, Connor. I don't know if you can see this one too. She's talking about the processes of kind of creativity versus brand. And Laurel's saying, I always feel a huge push in terms of writing creativity between creativity versus brand limitations and what the execs are comfortable with. The edits that come back always need to sanitize personality, especially a legal round. Help.
It's harder with bigger companies too. Like, it's a lot easier to flex your creativity when it's a smaller company, and they're much more interested in taking risks. But as soon as the company gets bigger, they're so tight on media, because that's where they could potentially get in trouble, essentially. And so there's no easy way around this. The thing that you have to sell internally is the fact that good creative comes from smaller decision-making teams, because decision by committee makes creative vanilla. That's the idea you have to sell in order to reduce red tape. So if I was in like an enterprise company, for instance, I would try to get really tight on who makes the calls for videos. You're always going to have to do legal sign off in those bigger businesses. There's no getting around that. Social teams complain about it all the time. But if you can get like the decision-making committee down to like a product marketer, a creative director, and like a director of content or something, that's going to be pretty sharp. I think you're going to have a really sharp point of view on your creative. But yeah, if you have to get the VP, the SVP of marketing to sign off on it, the COO to make sure that his product looks really good in it, the CTO, the CEO to make sure that the vision is exactly as he, or as they decided, then it's going to be a mess, because video is subjective at the end of the day, and everyone has a really strong opinion. For advice on how to go about that, man, it really comes to showing examples and showing where projects went awry too. It's always hard to get honest opinions from people in large organizations, but you can kind of prod and be like, hey, did you feel really good about the campaign that we released 3 months ago that you kind of thought was crap? And try to gauge their opinion on it. I wonder how it would feel if we just, we're a little bit riskier and started with a smaller decision-making committee. Maybe you got the CEO involved in the first round of edits, but not in like the second or third. Or maybe you got the CEO involved in like this minor spot, not in the script writing. If you suggest it as a test, and you make your goal to make the decision-making committee smaller and prove that makes better creative, that's kind of the approach I would take. The rest is like internal politics. It's going to be hard for me to be specific.
Yeah. No, I love that approach. And I like the idea of, like you said, running tests, making sure you've got some variations in there as well, having a play around. And I'm just thinking as well in terms of creativity and where you draw your kind of inspirations from. because obviously we don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing, right? And like you mentioned earlier, drawing from B2C is actually quite an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah.
They're doing lots of different things, even just doom scrolling actually after work, you can find a lot of inspiration there. Someone's feeling stuck creatively, obviously blank page is a tricky thing to overcome. Any advice there in terms of where to look for? And I don't necessarily mean tools, I mean just in life and where you turn to if you're actually feeling that kind of creative rut.
Ooh, I love that.
Turning to
Well, so obviously Martha already said my favorite hack, which is when you're brain rot doom scrolling, like I do at night when I'm very tired, just create a bookmarks folder of a favorite creatives. Just put them in there. You'd be like ideas for later. That way you can feel productive as you're doom scrolling for an hour. But really, like conversations with friends, bouncing ideas off of people. Can I get your opinion on this idea? And then maybe they'll add their own spice. I'm an extrovert, so maybe I'm biased towards that, but I think that people have really good ideas that are just waiting to come out of them. And so asking them like, what if you had to highlight this pain point in a hook, like what would you say? Just leave it out open and get their opinions. Go on walks, clear the mind. Everyone's in front of their screens all day, so that helps. And then the last tip is like use AI. Honestly, you can get some pretty generic stuff from AI, but if you're a good judge of creative, you can just look past that. And a lot of times I'm just looking for like hook ideas. And if you prompt it well and give it a huge outline, then it'll give you some ideas you never thought about. Highly recommend.
Okay, love that. I also, I really like the advice of having someone you can have that judgment-free zone with as well. Because it's so hard to get your ideas out. I can't remember what the stat is about how many thousands of thoughts we have in a day. And so many of them just sit inside us. So really good advice. We've got some quick fire ones here, just in terms of like best tools and things like this.
Please.
Translations, dubbing from Natalie. Any advice there?
Oh, translations. That's a really good AI space. I wonder if she was talking about when I was talking about AI tools. Wistia is my go-to. I think there's a lot of players in this space, to be honest, but Wistia has the easiest interface for this. So you can basically just have a talking head video, you click dub and translate, and it'll automatically change the language to like 50 different languages. It's magic. I don't know how it works, to be honest, but I've seen myself speak in French with my lips lining up to it, and it freaked me out. And then I turned off the computer for the day. So highly recommend. I just panicked.
Okay, I love that. Okay, brilliant. And in terms of clip selection, obviously there's so many different ways we can go about this. I'm trying to see who's asking this question here. Athera. Okay, so clip. Let's have a think. We could do that in terms of doing it from transcript and also doing it just as clips as well. That'd be really helpful, I think, for Athera.
Yeah, I'll share a tool that I like, and I've tried a bunch of tools.
Oh, sorry, that was for Neil, that question. Apologies.
Neil, shout out Neil. Oh,
sorry.
Hello. Okay, so here, I'll share this. This is my favorite tool for clip selection right now. There's a whole bunch of options. Like you can use Opus Clip, you can use ChatGPT, honestly, and just plug in a transcript. But I like what they've been creating over at Summarize, and it automatically repurposes it into a bunch of different, what do you call it? Clips and assets and stuff. So this is like a podcast that I uploaded, and all of these assets that it kind of generated a V1 of, YouTube video descriptions, checklists, etc. And they've just released a clips tool that goes in and finds like pretty good clips, and it does a decent job. And most importantly, you can talk to it like an LLM on the right and ask it for certain clips, and it'll go in and pull them. So if you're looking to repurpose the hell out of your like long form videos, this is the #1 thing that I choose. If you're looking to like create, and honestly, you don't need like a tool. You can just use ChatGPT, which I guess is a tool, but it's a free tool, and for quotes that are hitting these specific points. And that's how I used to get clips all the time before I used Summarize. So past that, Neil, you're a video person, so like how do they say it on camera is really important too. So sometimes I'll just scrub through my clips at like 2x speed. And if someone looks impassioned as they're talking, like we got to catch that essentially, especially in customer testimonials. So use your best judgment. It's a creative process, but there are tools to help you like expedite that process.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and Miriam's got another question there, just jumping off of your customer testimonials.
Yeah.
So if you can see this question here, how do you go about customer testimonials to make sure the story turns out how you want them to be? Do you prep beforehand through an interview with the client and create a script, or do you just let them answer everything kind of on the spot?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, I'll even bring you behind the scenes and I'll show you what I've done. So, oh my god, this is messier than I thought it was going to be. But anyway, this is a customer testimonial project that I had with a company called Carbon. It was the example I showed in the presentation, but essentially we mapped out, like, we're making 5 videos and we knew we wanted 3 of them to be medium and 3 to be large. Okay, great. Now that we've got that, how are we going to make the question list? And what we really wanted to do was create ads at the end of the day out of this. So we were like trying to find different things that we've heard in their customer calls before that pulled them into Carbon. So like, accountants have a love-hate relationship with client portals. So we wanted to highlight that, and we wanted to talk about how billing and payments and Carbon for Clients fixes that. And so this is like an ad that we chart, and obviously the benefit is it saves time, no need to chase clients, blah, blah, blah. So this top one, for instance, is an ad that we've already charted out before we've even interviewed them. And this will inform the questions we ask. So like, for instance, a question we ask is like, before Carbon, how much did you used to love client portals? You know, like, did you love them or did you hate them? And then that obviously loads the question up for this ad.
Yeah.
So I really recommend charting out the different pains, features, and benefits that you want to target before you actually sit down and write the questions, because otherwise you're shooting in the dark and you don't really know what they're going to say, and you can't really lead them into giving a good answer. And they want to give a good answer. They signed up for your customer testimonial, so they want to look like stars. So put in the proper prep, and this is kind of how you do it.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant advice. Okay, so we're nearly at time, actually. I'm going to end with a final question. I think we've answered everything here. Yeah. Let's go away with a bit of advice. What's the number one thing people shouldn't be doing? So you're wanting to go ahead with video as a medium. What do you see mistakes-wise? And what do you recommend people 1000% do not do from this point forwards?
Don't do checkbox marketing when it comes to video.
Okay.
The most common form of this is feeling like you need to post on every channel. And so you take like a long form video, or maybe you take like a clip that was meant for LinkedIn, and then you just post it on Instagram, you post it on TikTok, you post it on YouTube, and it's all the same clip. No form or editing. Every channel is so specific in the videos that they enjoy. And so doing this is like a disaster. I think it's like actively harmful for your brand to do such a thing. So focus on one channel early. If you have the resources to focus on multiple channels, awesome, do that. But don't split your eggs, because video is really complicated. Video is really hard. There's so many steps. And so figure out one process, get that down first, then move on to the next. You don't need to hit every channel.
Okay. Amazing. Brilliant. So that's time now. But thank you everyone so much for joining. Like we said earlier in the comments, I will be sending out everything tomorrow morning to your inbox. So you're going to get the slides, you'll get the recording, and you'll also get all the download of what the key takes are basically from our session today. It's been really, really good to have you here, Connor. And if anyone has any other questions for Connor, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about Wynter or anything else, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining. It's been a complete joy. And thanks, Connor, for such a great workshop.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for asking such good questions.
Amazing. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.